The year is 2005, and a certain fighting game tournament is taking place, Evolution. But this is hardly a normal year for EVO. While the FGC at large has accepted consoles as the way of the future, a controversy embroils the game Super Street Fighter II Turbo, and the problematic PlayStation port recently released. This port was commonly considered of very poor quality, featuring numerous drastic issues and changes that made it unfit for competitive play in the eyes of some. While numerous competitors boycotted the tournament, others were eliminated earlier than expected, as a result of practicing on a version of the game that was not used in the tournament. But for some, this tumultuous time for the game served as a window to penetrate into the top levels of the tournament. One of these competitors, who went by DarksydePhil, made 4th place. Phil, an East Coast player nicknamed the King of Hate, fell in losers semifinals to Tokido, but his performance made him the highest place American competitor that year, and in his words, the #1 ranked Super Turbo player in the USA, a title that he flaunted prolifically. However, most other competitors didn't quite see it the same way. Many didn't take the tournament's results very seriously, on account of the version used, and as a result, Phil's reputation was not at all as he would later claim it to be.
That's what I was looking for. You got some idiot named DSP, who's a total piece of shit, by the way. I like to get that on YouTube, but this guy thought he was hot shit because he beat me and Choi in a game that was like, it's like fucking Neo Geo conversion of Street Fighter or some crap, dude. And he was so proud that he put under as a signature, he's the #1 US ranked Super Turbo player that year.
This was easily the most notable placement Phil has ever had in any tournament, and he was otherwise considered a very subpar competitor. In addition, while Phil maintained that his nickname, the King of Hate, was a result of his controversial opinions, others tell a different story. Rather, his nickname was the product of his violent outburst he was prone to at events.
One man from DSP to report this match is disqualified. Where am I playing? You still haven't told me! Jesus Christ, man! Treat you like your own.
While there's little information that could be called reliable surrounding this man's history in the fighting game community, what little glimpses we have paint a very peculiar picture. A picture of a man burdened by a bloated ego and a lack of any self-awareness. While he may not have had much lasting impact in the community, the stories surrounding him are bizarre and quite interesting.
You know, everyone says that I'm a big hater, but I only hate on people because they hate on me first. So everything that I say on the internet may be in good fun, but it's just in reaction to all the other bullshit that goes on behind the scenes. We'll see today what really happens when Valle and Choi play me on an arcade cabinet and see what new excuse they can think up.
Fine, I'll be in it, but I was tired and I lost. And they're like, oh, see, so Phil, got that high in the tournament, but now he lost quick in this one. Obviously, that means that he sucks and it means nothing. No, it means that I was in the fucking.
Sometime between 2005 and 2006, Phil had been talking a lot of trash over the internet to Viscant, legendary West Coast Marvel and Street Fighter player who still plays today. He had been doing so for months, but Viscant finally had enough and challenged Phil to a money match at that year's EVO. Viscant was confident Phil wouldn't accept his challenge, knowing very well that he could beat Phil at any game they played. Phil did his best to squirrel his way out of the challenge and jokingly asked that they fight in real life instead, presumably believing that Viscant wouldn't accept. Phil actually challenged Viscant to a fistfight at EVO. However, what Phil didn't expect was that Viscant would actually accept. And unbeknownst to Phil, Viscant had extensive experience in combat, having probably been in more gym fights in the past 2 months than Phil had been in his entire life. Over the next few months, Phil continued to organize the fight, hoping that Viscant would end up backing down from the challenge. They even organized the signing of documents, releasing them from liability in the event of serious injury. And genuine debate was had regarding who would serve as a referee, and whether or not there would be a weight limit. Viscant would later write that it sounds like a total farce, except I can assure you that it was 100% serious, which makes us both look like total, complete fucking idiots. Leading up to EVO, Phil learned from West Coast players visiting an East Coast tournament that Viscant was dead set on seeing the fight through, and he was informed of Viscant's fighting experience. Phil was rather shook, learning that he may have to actually fight Viscant. He messaged Viscant asking to call the fight off, and proposed that they, quote, pretend like we're going to fight, and then when a whole crowd is around us, we both do DX crotch chops to the crowd. It'll be such a goof. Viscant initially refused, genuinely wanting to fight Phil, but he would later agree to just drop it. Afterwards, there was little animosity between the two. Many people disliked Phil in the FGC, and as a result, he was routinely confronted by people he shit-talked online. Despite his repeated claims of superiority over other players, he almost never backed them up. One of the more memorable examples was when Jaha, a West Coast player and former Marine, confronted Phil with some friends at EVO 2002. To many witnesses, it seemed as if they were on the verge of attacking him before Viscant stepped in to defuse the situation.
And fucking he was videotaping it, and I'm fucking getting up in his face, asking why the fuck he's talking shit, and what the fuck's his problem, and he's fucking just, you know, just fucking cowering and all fucking scared, and him and his friends are trying to fucking leave, and we're not letting them, and then
Very few people would disagree with the characterization of Phil as a scrub. As anyone who's seen his YouTube videos can attest, Phil routinely blamed other players, the game, or any other number of outside influences for his poor performance, especially in fighting games. From his claims of everyone in Street Fighter IV being hackers, to his routine blaming of his failures upon internet trolls, Phil is the kind of person who's willing to blame anything and everything but himself. As defined by David Serlin in Playing to Win, a scrub is someone who constructs mental limits beyond those of the game itself, usually labeling certain tactics and mechanics as cheap or dishonorable. The inevitable result of this is the scrub twisting situations to put themselves on top, despite how badly they might lose. This habit inhibits self-criticism, and thus growth. You can find countless examples of DarksydePhil doing this exact thing. And if his performance playing more recent fighting games is anything to go by, it significantly impeded any potential growth he might have had as a player.
Look at this, I can't do anything. I'm not doing anything, I'm just getting hit. I'm blocking, oh my god.
Phil was an infamous character in the earlier days of the FGC, but today he is barely associated with the community at all. Since his escapades in the 2000s, Phil has become a somewhat successful YouTuber, notable for pushing the Let's Play format early in the website's lifespan. But his repetitive videos and childish behavior, including accidentally live streaming some private behavior, have since made him a joke among the YouTube gaming community, and a certified lolcow in the eyes of many.
It's like, that's the fucking DarksydePhil style of doing things. Blame everybody that isn't you, and people watch to watch you rage. Like, do you want to be the fucking court jester? No, you don't.
The exact moment he left the FGC is ambiguous, but it was the result of several factors. Firstly, Phil was despised by many members of the FGC, and some say he was ejected on account of his behavior. In addition, being a full-time YouTuber likely left little time for competing, especially once you consider the fact that Phil uploads incredibly frequently in comparison to other YouTubers. Sometimes he produces dozens of videos in a single day. Phil's exit of the FGC was quiet, and nowadays he's rarely mentioned, unless of course, it's as an example of how not to behave yourself in the community.
Justin, did you have any more honorable, dishonorable mentions?
I guess I would agree with you with DSP.
Yeah, my boy.
Because
you know, he's just one of those fucking guys, you know, that just runs his mouth on the internet freely, but when you get in person, you know, he's fucking quiet as a mouse. And
one of the most interesting aspects of the FGC is how it serves as a bridge between the internet and real life. People walk into tournaments wearing the name and identity that they've built online, regardless of how it truly reflects them as a person. DarksydePhil is a perfect representation of this aspect of the community, and the effects it can have. Online, he portrayed himself as a shit-talking badass, his statements clad under an edgy username, but allowing himself to get carried away in his online ego had countless negative results when he faced their impacts in real life. DSP never learned how to tame his ego, and as a result, he stands as an example of what can happen if you don't.